Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Spring Into Action. Well, today, in this one, we are definitely bringing the fun. I can understand, and I've been hearing and listening and getting the feedback from real estate that it's been a little bit tough lately. It hasn't been the hyped up, fun, energy-filled industry that it has been in the past. But today, we're going to bring it back. We're going to tell you how to get more out of life, enjoy your life, with the one and only, the funnest guy in the world I've ever met, Dale Sidebottom, coming up straight after this. Maybe. Dale Sidebottom, welcome to Spring Into Action. I told you I'd muck up that intro, but it was only a little one. Don't tell anyone.
I loved it. I really enjoyed that, Creaky. As a second or third time you've introduced me, mate. Not quite as good as when you did it as a TED stage, but I do appreciate it. Thanks for having me, mate.
That was an incredible day, that TEDx day. That's how Dale and I met. I was emceeing a TEDx, and this guy turned up full of muscles, in his pajamas, and he bounced around the TED stage, and I was captivated from the moment you started to the moment you finished. And I'd say we've become pretty good mates ever since.
We have. It's funny how you meet people and make connections. I didn't expect to, I just expected, I know you've done a TED talk as well, the nerves and everything on the day when you're rocking up. I just wanted to get that 15 minutes right. But the friends and connections I've made from that day, I'd say I've got yourself and Mello, another guy I met there, very good mates, and other ones I stay in regular contact with. So, yeah, it's really, really interesting. You don't always know who you're going to bump into when you allow that to happen. And very grateful. And as I said, grateful to be here today, mate.
I think that's an incredible thing about TEDx that some people maybe don't understand, is that it's well beyond just the videos that end up on YouTube. I've done a few. I've been at a few now. I've been lucky to be involved in a couple of them. One speaking, as you mentioned, and then another one hosting. There's something about those days when you have people who are thinkers. I think it is all coming together with their own ideas, and it's a moment to share it. And that's the whole thing about TEDx, right? Ideas worth sharing. But it goes beyond that. There's like this warmness in the room, even from the audience, who are so willing to hear what your ideas are. And I think a lot of the times the people in the crowd actually have an idea of their own TEDx that they want to do. And so they're
Yes.
there just to get a little snifferoo. And then after that, they work out whether they're going to do it or not. But yeah, those days are amazing days.
They are, and I must admit, I was only going there to get that video, like you said at the start. That's what I wanted, because at the end of the day, Craigie, people want to see you in action. They're not going to watch one of my hour keynotes. Like, that's boring as, unless you're in the room. So I was going just for that video, and it's I was really surprised about the warmth, the energy, and the love in the room. And I think everybody was in the same boat, particularly the speakers, at how nervous everyone was, and the amount of time and energy and practice that went into doing that. And I always talk to people about this. So it's very easy to do a keynote because you've got 45 minutes to an hour. Like, if something stuffs up, you just make up time or whatever. But when you've only got 15 minutes, there's no 1 second, like it's like you blade of grass out in your front nature strip. It's got to be better than your backyard. And I know you love your lawn, Creaky. So essentially your TED Talk's like your front nature strip. You want that to be primo because that's what everyone sees.
Yeah, I must admit, like, because we both speak. You're speaking all over the world, which is just so awesome to watch. But I must admit, when someone says, "Listen, could you talk for 90 minutes?" I'm like, hell yeah. Like, thank you very much. Versus someone saying, "Can you speak for 20 minutes?" And I'm like, oh man, like, where do I go? And you got to make sure you hit it. So yeah, that's 16 minutes or whatever we had for the TEDx. I went back and watched mine recently for the first time. Never watched it back. but I'd seen some post that you only get better by reviewing your performances or whatever. So I thought, oh, I better go watch the big one. And it's so structured. Like I just know every turn that I'm doing. Here it comes, and bang, around it goes, and there's this and that, and yeah, just in and out and done.
It's I must admit I've only watched mine once. I watched it when it first came out, and I don't think I could watch it again just because I've improved so much. I feel, and we're our own harshest critic. But I knock back gigs now that are any less than 45 minutes, just because I feel a TED Talk's great for planting a seed. You give a snapshot, but you don't actually allow yourself to go deep and make a proper impact or change. And so, yeah, I've figured that out now. And you only do that, I suppose, by practicing what you preach. And, I'm sure real estate agents listening to this, the longer they do something, or if they're doing auctions or the way they do listing presentations, it grows and evolves as you get better. And I think, yeah, if you're not trying to grow and evolve, particularly like we are talking about speaking, then you're not growing. So, yeah, 45 minutes is the minimum I request now, Creaky. And the reason is I don't think I can do a good job as what I could in a TED Talk if they don't give me that amount of time.
Yeah, amazing. And I think that's an important message to business operators everywhere, or communicate. People who have to communicate, is that they're so focused. And I deal with a lot of people around creating content and creating video. And the most asked question is, how long should my video be? It shouldn't be any more than 1 minute or 2 minutes and 17 seconds or whatever it is. And it's like, no. You need to hold their attention as long as you can to get the message across that's going to make the change that you need them to make. And
so true.
I fight that every day. It's like, listen, if you can go and make all the 2-minute videos in the world, but it's not going to change. It's not going to change them if you can't get the message across. Maybe you can get it done in 2 minutes. Maybe you're that good. But if it needs to be longer to affect that change, then you just need to get better at storytelling and holding attention so that you can hold them long enough to affect the change. And I think that's what everything boils down to now. The world is changing, and so we have to be better at affecting change. And I think you just hit the nail on the head with that in regards to, you need the time to lay down the foundations and the pipe works and the thinking to get them to actually change, rather than just walk out of a presentation and say, oh, he was a nice guy, and then that's it.
Yeah. Well, and I think it comes down to knowing your presentation style and the way you build relationships, the way you build rapport. You can't do that in 2 minutes. I don't think you can fully do that in 15 minutes, and for example, a listing presentation, my best mate's a real estate agent at K & Burton Brighton, and some of those listing presentations he does go for a long period of time. And the reason being is you can't sell anyone anything until you've got a relationship with them. And a lot of the work I do, Creaky, is I take people on a journey of self-discovery through play. And the whole thing with that is they don't realize what they're doing, because I gradually take them deeper and deeper and get a little bit more vulnerable, but still make them feel safe until the end of it, particularly my hour keynote. I'm getting them to do something that is probably way out of their comfort zone, because they trust me and I've built that rapport with them. Whereas if I just started my keynote with saying, you need to send this message to someone, which is what it is, there's no way they'd do that. They're like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. That's making me feel extremely uncomfortable. And I don't have the ability to ask anybody that, because I haven't taken the time to build that trust. And that's the same with anything. So if you can do that in 2 minutes, as you said with video, awesome. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but personally, I know myself what I need. And yeah, that's any less than 45 minutes. It's definitely not going to work.
I don't know if you suffer this too, but I go to a lot of conferences just to see what's going on and to get information and to grow and to support other people. But sometimes I'll end up at conferences, or even the conferences I'm speaking at myself, and you get the person who gets up on stage and says, hey, how you all going? Right, now I want you to all stand up and hop on one leg. Kills me.
So I talk about these all the time, Greggy. The moment you say, hey, we're going to do an icebreaker or something like that, the moment you label something, you lose everyone. And the problem with that is when someone, and this is one of the ways I talk about in my keynote once I've done what I do, but the problem is the moment you label something, people have had a bad experience with it before. Traditionally, an icebreaker is, oh, let's go around the circle, the limelight on one person, everybody else listen, and that person shares something about themselves. That's an ice maker. Why? Because while you're talking, I am shitting myself. Oh, sorry, I don't know if I can swear.
Yeah,
I
go
am
for it.
packing. All right, I'm shitting myself because what am I going to say? I'm not even listening to you. So it
Yeah,
actually defeats the purpose of it. I call them connection starters, but I don't tell people that because a title's good for you to know what you're doing, but nobody else needs to know what that title is until you've done that.
yeah,
Um, and so I feel that's the biggest problem, particularly when I hear other people talk and they get up and start introducing themselves or say, we're going to stand up and do an icebreaker and hop on one foot. You already lose half the room and people don't care who you are until you've given them a positive impact. So, yeah, don't label anything. If you're going to do anything in life, the moment you label it, you lose 3/4 of the room.
yeah. Right. That's amazing.
Mm.
What a
There's
great.
one for you,
Now
mate.
you got my brain spinning. I'm thinking, Jesus, wow, that's amazing. So let's get into what you do. Juga Life.
Mm-hmm.
Did I pronounce
Yep.
that properly?
Yeah, I don't really know how to pronounce it either. It means plain Spanish. I think it's hooga, but I don't really like saying it like that. So yeah, that's how I say it too, mate.
Juga Life. But
Yep.
you run fun shops, and I love this. I love this because you run fun shops. You're not afraid to speak to anyone at any time. You go from schools through to corporates, through to big cosmetic companies, um, real estate agents, everywhere. Tell us about the concept of Juga Life and fun
Yep.
shops, and what it is that what's the problem you're solving? What are you attacking here? What needs to be addressed?
I think when it essentially this is born from I love using play. I think play is an amazing thing, but serious play that is designed to get impact. So essentially, we're a company that work with children, adults, corporate, sports clubs. It doesn't matter who. Using play-based activities that take people on a journey to improve their mental and physical well-being. And one of the best ways we do that is we make people feel safe. We give people an experience. We allow them to have fun without actually knowing what they're doing. But more importantly, it connects people. There's so many different things about play, but one of it is that's how we form our strongest social circles. And you just have to look and don't go sit outside a primary school. You might get in a little bit of trouble, but just think back to what it was like, at primary school. What do kids do? They run around, they play all day, they connect, they learn how to win and lose, they learn how to build resilience, communicate, all these different skills. But unfortunately, the older we get busy. We say we don't have time for it, and we don't allow ourselves to play. So what we do in our sessions, it doesn't matter if I'm working with real estate agents, as you said, schools, teachers, parents, anyone, we give them a space that is safe. The limelight is not on one person, and we take them on a play-based journey where not only do they find ways to have fun, but they also find out different things about themselves and pushing the boundaries. And by the end of it, and I'm talking particularly now around, my keynote, that by the end of it, I get them to do this thing called a PAL message that and if you want to watch my TED talk, I speak about it in that, but where they're extremely vulnerable, but they do it because they send a message to somebody, tell them why they're proud of them, what they admire about them, what they love about them. And the feedback you get from that, Creaky, is that, wow, that is so powerful. And it really is. But my big thing is it's easy to do that, but it's also easy not to do that. And sometimes what people say is by you getting up and sharing your story and being quite vulnerable, you allow us the freedom and the opportunity to do it. And because, I'm doing it in a session, it gives people the permission to do that. And sometimes that's what we need, particularly when we feel uncomfortable about doing something. We need the permission that there's a reason or somebody telling us to do it, because without that, we wouldn't do it. And so essentially my sessions are all about, I talk about this, you must be well to lead well, and it doesn't matter where you're doing that. If you do not make time for yourself, then you can't really make time for anybody else. And that'll affect, your friends, family, workplace, doesn't matter who. You need to invest time in yourself before you can physically or mentally do anything for anyone else.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just love listening to you speak. I could just go round in circles.
Not many people say that with his voice, mate. Sorry, the rusty chainsaw.
Record that as my ringtone. But what fascinated me about what you just spoke about was taking me back to primary school, you took me back there, and I was like, hold on a minute, maybe the world or myself was thinking about this the wrong way. Is that I used to think about the fact that I used to play with my friends, but I that's not the way it is. The people I used to play with became my best friends.
Correct. Yep. And
That's
there's so many other things with that as well. And you only have to think about, and you're the same. You work with a lot of workplaces. The best workplaces are the ones that do play together, that do have fun together. And I don't mean going out and drinking, and I think this is one of the big misconceptions that we do a lot of social functions, but every time it's at the pub around alcohol. And I get a lot of people say, hey, Dale, you do icebreakers and team building. I don't do either of those because normally people have had a really bad experience. It's had the opposite effect, like what I spoke about before. What I do is I create a safe environment with well-structured ideas, research, and games that take people on a journey that not only improve them as individuals, but also help the workplace. Like essentially finding that inner child on a playground, like you said, where you make your best friends. You do that in the right way, like anything. It's like selling a house or, you know, building a house or doing anything. If you don't do it the right way, the foundations aren't there and it's not going to work.
It's really fascinating. I think back to my time when I worked in big media corporate, right? And I would be sitting in an open plan newsroom with about 200 other people, and thinking back at it, and back then you knew about, of course there was politics. It was a bit of a dog eat dog competitive world, but there were almost factions based on where you were sitting geographically as your desk. Like you almost formed little gangs. And I'm just thinking about how much different it could have been if they actually had more social events and more events, or moved people around so that you actually started interacting with everyone in all corners of that room. It would have broken down the barriers and been, imagine how much time they would have saved, because, you're sitting there going, oh, Jenny in accounts, she's a nightmare. Where if you actually got to know Jenny, she wasn't a nightmare at all. It was just that you decided that by the fact that you never interacted with her, that you actually never knew her and never had a chance to connect.
Yeah, well, instead of being curious, you're judgmental. You make assumptions on people because you haven't had the opportunity to meet them in the right way. I think that's the thing. It's not about at workplaces. Oh, go and introduce yourself and talk about things you have in common. That's not the way you build connections. You do it when you don't actually realize what you're doing. I think that's probably where I've had the most success, Creaky, is that I don't tell people what they're doing, and at the end, once they've done that, I say, well, what's just happened? And they're able to tell me what's happened then. The education doesn't take place up front. The education takes place by feeling it and doing it. Like I could tell anyone what I'm going to do in one of my sessions, but unless you feel it, you're not going to get the benefits and you're not going to use it afterwards. And it's exactly the same with anything in life. You can tell people that they need to eat healthier, that they need to drink less coffee or whatever. But when they start doing it and decide to do it for themselves and they feel the benefits, then they can tell you because they understand then. And yeah, sort of a similar metaphor that I take people on. It doesn't matter where I am. That's essentially how it's done.
You make them grow by stealth.
Ooh, yes.
You just sneak it in there, and then all of a sudden they can't say no because it's already happened.
Correct. Sneaky learning, sneaky fitness, sneaky connection, whatever you want to call it. They don't need to know. People don't need to know what they're doing. And it's probably very similar to, real estate agents, that the way that they convince somebody that they're the best agent to sell with, they're not telling the vendor how they're doing that. That's a journey that they take somebody on because they understand building those personal connections and those relationships with new people. That's all life is. Life is all about relationships. And we mentioned that before, when we met at the TED Talk, that, essentially you were just introducing me. We didn't have any right to form a really good relationship. There was 15 other talkers there for the day. But you gravitate to people that allow that to happen. And that's what building connections and relationships is all about.
There were 15 other TED speakers that day, but there was only one wearing pajamas.
Yeah, there was, mate.
And
I haven't got them out for a while.
yeah, I think we actually, you and I think I connected with you because you broke the rule that I broke, was you were supposed to stay standing on the red dot, and you and I were just bouncing around the stage, and it's like, we weren't just doing it from the cameras. We'll bring everyone in the room from the front row, from the back row to the front, like bringing them right in what we had, because I think we share a strong belief. I think we're lucky, you and I, when I look at us, is that we both have had an idea or a concept that we've built on, and we believe in it so strongly that I think we're probably actually pretty lucky in life, because I think the more I get around this world, the more I meet people who are lost. So how can you help, and what you do, help people who are lost find their way?
Well, I think the first thing you can do is not try and please anybody else. And you just sum that up right there. That yes, you're supposed to stay on that red circle, but when there's an audience there and you're in flow, that red circle just blended away. I didn't even know where it was.
Have a look back at the video; it's there. You can see it.
Well, I know it is, mate. I just kept jumping over it. But I think the biggest thing people need to do is stop worrying about anybody else and start just pleasing yourself. It's so much easier said than done. And I know for a long time, Creaky, I battled with that because I went against the norm. I'm doing something completely different. And it wasn't that people didn't believe in me, but they're always like, oh, Dale, don't worry. You can always fall back on teaching. Like, whatever you're doing, it's all right. You'll always be able to go back and be a teacher. And I know that they have their best interests in heart, but what that was saying to me is that, oh, we think you're going to fail. And people take things however they want to take it. And that was probably motivation for me in a negative way, that I wanted to prove people wrong. I look back at that now and I can see that. But what that did for me is it gave me massive determination that what I am doing and what I've created, nobody's doing. For that example, I get a lot of people say to me, Craigie, oh, where are the data? Where's the evidence around what you're doing? I say, oh, have all these testimonials, or just come into a room that I speak and see what the energy is and the feeling, and then you'll get it. And they go, that's not enough. So I've actually partnered up with La Trobe University this year, and we're doing a really big study around the benefits of my fun shops for the individuals, for their mental and physical well-being and their happiness and all these different things, because there's nothing like it out there. And I think when there's nothing out there like it, people are skeptics and they're scared because it's the unknown. So I'm really excited. In a couple of months, I'm going to have some pretty powerful data that we've been able to capture this year around the benefits of what I've been doing. So I can't remember exactly where you're talking about people being stuck or things like that. Well, I've taken on a completely different journey, but the biggest thing that I want to relate it back to, mate, is don't worry about what other people are doing or what they're thinking, or if they're going to judge you. They're too busy doing what they're doing to even worry about what you're doing. And it's taken me a long time to figure that out. And you only get that by being comfortable taking risks, doing things and learning from it. And I guess that's what we've both done, mate, because we've both left very secure, good jobs that anybody would be happy with, but we've chased more because we have a passion and we know that we can help people. And it's very rewarding now to see, 7 years full-time doing this, the impact that that's having, not only in Australia, but around the world. And I'm very grateful that I didn't listen to other people and I backed myself. And I'm proud of the person I see because I was able to do that.
I think that's a lesson too. Back yourself. Real estate is one of those industries where you don't need a university degree to get into it. Like you can leave school, get your certificate, get a job, and off you go. But gee, it's so competitive out there. Within a 5 kilometer radius of where I'm standing right now, there's 35 different real estate offices.
Wow.
Right, that's a lot. And so it's like, you can understand when you go into these offices and each of them have got somewhere between 10 to 15 salespeople, and you're like, all right, there's been a little bit of a slowing in stock coming to the market, and so things are tightening up. So you can get these people who start to doubt themselves and not believe in it, and then they get into this cycle where things don't become fun anymore and they fall out of love, and then their friends start talking to them or their family starts talking to them about, it's okay, you can go and do this or you can go and do that, and they start thinking about the different exit avenues. And, you know, my mum's a classic example. I celebrated 10 years of Viable the other day. So 10 years of
Well done,
Viable,
mate. That's
10
very
years,
impressive.
10 years of not drinking alcohol. And I sat there and said to my mum, I said, you won't believe I've gone 10 years. And she was like, wow, you know, you could still go back and be a journalist. Like, you know, if you want. I'm like, no. I'm actually telling you that I've made 10 years. Not many people actually make it this far with a business. Now, have I reached the dizzy heights that I've always aimed for? Not yet, but I'm still working at it. And, we're getting along just fine. I'm not asking anyone for money. You know, the business is working. And I think when we switch this back to what we're talking about with real estate agencies, that sometimes you can wish for things too fast. And as you said, other people can wish for things for you too fast as well. And I think what you're saying is enjoy the journey. Make sure you're having fun along the way. And if you back yourself and you're having fun, then that's all that matters. Your opinion of yourself and in your life. That's what you got to focus on.
I don't even really need to say anything because it's so true. And I know every profession has it, and particularly like a real estate agent, you know, you are essentially a sole trader. You are essentially running your own business because nobody is going to get the leads for you. Nobody is going to, you know, get the listings or be able to sell them. You know, you have to be motivated. You have to be putting the work in, and no one's going to do that for you. Whereas I can only relate back to, you know, being a teacher or something that each year you rock up, you've got a class, the bell goes, you know what you're getting into. Like, yes, it's very rewarding, but there's not the highs or the lows that will come with what we're doing or real estate agent, because the work you put in, you get rewarded for, you know, and I think that's the same with anything. And biggest thing I've ever wish I had known a lot more, but the more work you put into yourself, the better everything else is, you know, and finding ways to have fun and make a bad situation bearable, or do things for yourself when times are tough. It's so easy to say, but yeah, I look back now and some of the best experiences, or particularly we've just got, and I don't like talking about this too much, but you know, we went through something called COVID, and that was pretty tough, Cricket. I had a 6-month world tour booked in. I was over 6 months. I was away. I was going to 16 countries. I was keynoting all around the world. Within a day, bang, all gone. And I was crying and know what to do. But now I look back at that, and it made me pivot and do other things. And I'm very resilient. I can do so many different things because I had to. I figured that out. And that's the same with any profession. You know, if the market's changing or you got 35 different real estate companies around you and there's not as much stock yet, yes, it is hard to sell, you know, and people are tightening their pockets everywhere. Like, it doesn't matter what profession you're in, it's hard. And that's where you need to stand out and be different. And really that comes back to the way you feel about yourself and the work you put in, that radiates against anybody that you come to. And people always go, oh, Dale, you're up and about, you're energetic, you're a lot of fun. I'm not always, you know, but like, I do things for myself that I can be like this. Every morning I go to the gym at 5 a.m. Like, that's non-negotiable.
I was going to say, what are these things? So if there's people watching who are feeling a little bit locked down, I mean, we're both in Melbourne, and the weather over the last week's been amazing, and you can almost see people's moods lift because we've come out of that 6 week of grey, dark, gloomy Melbourne. It's gone back a little bit rainy and cold.
It's horrible now.
Last couple of days, but we can hold on to hope that the fact that grand final day was 27, 28 degrees, and it was a great day, and that sort of lifts people's moods. What can they do? Like, what if someone's stuck in a rut? What's the 3 to 5 step process that they can start tonight when they finish work or tomorrow morning when they wake up? What can change their state?
It's not even 3 to 5 things. You just need to start with one thing. And I think this is one of the biggest things I find, Craigie, and everybody's different. What I do won't work for you. What you do won't work for me. And for other listeners, like what I say, it's not going to work for them. And that's fine. That's why there's so many different options. But my biggest thing would be, whatever you do, the first thing you do in the morning, get up and move your body however you want to without any device. The moment we open our device and start scrolling or read emails or things like that, we're consumed. Our day takes over us and we miss that bit of joy in the morning. For me personally, I go and do a 5 a.m. gym class every morning, except Sunday because they don't do it. If they did, I probably would. But I get up in the morning, I drink a large glass of water, I put my clothes on, and I go to the gym. When I get home at 6, then I can check my phone and email about the day or whatever. That works for me. I'm present the whole time. That is my time in the morning. Another really simple one, if you're not a morning person, which a lot of people aren't, set your alarm 15 minutes earlier. Don't look at it when you get up and just walk 10 minutes around the block without any device, without anything. Allow your head to think. Unfortunately, every time we're walking now, and I see people all this time, they're either listening to a podcast, and don't get me wrong, podcasts are great. Run a couple of them if you're worried, but we're always consuming data. We don't allow ourselves to be creative or curious or even bored. When we're bored, that's when creativity comes in. So my biggest thing is the first thing you do in the morning, do not scroll your phone. If you do that, you are consuming and your day's already over. You are part of the grind straight away. Do something where you move your body. If that's walking a dog, walking yourself, going to a gym, go for a swim, ride, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Do 10 minutes just for you. And that'll be the biggest starting block you can do. Nobody will give you that time back and no one will do that for you. And for people that may not already do this, it will be hard. But that's where the best things come, Craigie. When you put the work in and you do something you haven't done for a while and you consistently do it, it really works. And it's not doing for an hour. This is the biggest thing. Start with 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Little wins. It's like New Year's resolutions. I was on a podcast before. New Year's resolutions don't work majority of the time because people go too hard. Start small. Be kind to yourself. Celebrate that you're able to go for a 5-minute walk in the morning without your device. Like little simple wins. That's the start. It starts small and that'll gradually improve your mood and, your happiness and everything else like that.
Yeah, I think you've made some really great points. I must admit, I put my hand up. I didn't walk this morning because it was rainy, and if I took the dog, it'd be wet, and then I'd be dealing with a wet dog all day and have to keep it off the beds and whatever it is. So I tapped out this morning, but I will go at some point today. So if there are, say, let's talk about this from a leadership point of view. We've got real estate principals or business owners who have got a team underneath them. What do they need to do to make sure that they can get the most out of their staff and it makes sure that their staff are enjoying what they're doing?
Well, again, they need to look after themselves first because people eventually can see through somebody that's a hypocrite. Like if you aren't putting the work in, but then you're expecting it for other people, there's only so long you can do that. So most importantly, you need to look after yourself before you worry about your workplace. Once you do look after yourself, then you need to create a fun environment. And you need to create an environment where people come in and they share and they feel trusted and they want to connect with each other. A warm environment is always a place that, particularly anyone wants to go to. And if you've got, clients coming in off the street and different things like that, they can tell when it's a really nice environment because that's set. It starts at the front desk all the way back through to, the principal or whoever their office, or if it's open plan or whatever that is. It starts by creating a fun environment. And there's all different ways you can do this. And every office is different. So that's where, you've got to trial things and figure it out. But probably the biggest thing I would say, mate, is that you need to lead by example. And that is most importantly taking care of yourself. Once you lead and, talking about what you're doing and how you're feeling and different things like this and, encouraging your staff to, if they've got a meeting, do a walk and talk or different things like this. Just get outside and move our body because we know the longer we sit, sitting is the new smoking. It is slowly killing people. We don't move our body enough. And when we're moving our body, all those good endorphins come down, not like what we're doing now sitting. If we were able to do this talking, I'd probably have way better answers. But as leaders of a business, practice what you preach. And that starts with you doing the work for yourself.
Well, I'll correct you there because I'm standing, you're sitting.
Oh, sorry, mate. I'm sitting. Sorry, mate. There you go. Two squats. Well done.
No, I get that. And I think if, you mentioned before COVID, I think COVID's taught us one thing, and that is that the rigidness of work, the structures that people were put in terms of work prior to COVID no longer exist. And you mentioned it before. Do a walk and talk meeting. I had a guy the other day, hey, we're supposed to catch up for that coffee. And I'm like, okay, well, can we do it on stand-up paddleboards? I'll come down and we'll just spend an hour on the stand-up paddleboard having a chat. And I think that's the way we can think now. Video chats are allowing people to work from home. And, let's be honest, people who work from home, they have a few other luxuries that allow them to invest into themselves, where you're going out in the garden and just sniffing the flowers or pulling some weeds. It's actually making you feel a little bit better. I mean, I've been working at home since 2013, and I've got an incredible habit of whenever I'm on a call, I wander. And I always find myself in the garden, and I'm always doing gardening while I'm on the call. It's not that I'm not paying attention. It's just when I get into the zone, and then I get to the end of the day, I'm like, not only did I have a good day at work, maybe I missed out on a gig, but at least the garden's looking good.
There's
I
no
got
weeds.
outside. I got outside. I did something, and I think that's a big one too. Is that if people are feeling stuck in a rut, give yourself some easy wins. Like, just get those, if you're getting up early, a 10-minute walk when you haven't walked for 3 months in the morning, that's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah.
You haven't rung 4 or 5 people on your list that you're meant to have rung and you haven't rung them, ring them. If you get their voicemail, fantastic. Bang. You've still reached them. Tick, 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 tick. I'm a big one for having lists and posters around my wall. So particularly if I'm doing cold calls, and I give myself big ticks so I can sit there and go, wow, look at all the big ticks that I've done. I can't be doing anything else. Like, maybe I can do other things, but at least I've done that.
Yeah. Celebrate the wins. That's one of the biggest things that I wish I'd have known earlier, that anytime you delay gratification, you are slowly boxing something down. The longer you delay it, the less and less likely it is the next time you achieve something, you're going to celebrate it. Any win's a win. Be proud of it, celebrate it, tick it, whatever you need to do. And unfortunately, that's why if you are, and I did this for a long period of my life, I wouldn't allow myself to celebrate anything because I was so fixated on these goals. You do that long enough, you end up burning out. So celebrate the small wins in work, life, family, doesn't matter where it is. You need to be proud of what you do. And if you don't celebrate it, then the next time you're not going to do it. So small wins are good wins. Small wins equal big wins. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's amazing. Mate, you did write a book.
I did, yes.
A bestseller.
A lot of editing from Paul Wiley, the team at Wiley. I feel a bit sorry for them.
The autocorrect wasn't picking up some of the words.
I didn't even know what they were. Oh.
But you've written a book, so people can get hold of that still via your website. Give them the website, because I think there's going to be a lot of people interested in this concept. Is it via your website? Is it via Amazon? Like, where do you want them to go?
It's not on my website because I don't want to be shipping them, sorry. So if you just type in
you're
all
getting
work...
fussy in your old age.
No.
Only speaking for 45 minutes plus. Buy my book, but only if you come and pick it up from me direct, because I'm not shipping it, because I don't want to go to the post office. Jeepers, well, fame does change people. Let me go.
No, definitely doesn't. No, Amazon and book places are very good at selling books. I don't actually sell any books. If you book in a talk, they'll give you some free ones. No, the book's called All Work, No Play, A Surprising Guide to Be More Mindful, Cheerful and Grateful. So if you just type in All Work, No Play on the internet by Dale Sidebottom, you'll be able to check that out. And it's basically a one-stop shop for ways that you can inject...
somewhere.
Oh, I've got one somewhere too, mate. I think there's... here we go. I've got one. Here you go. I've got one right there for you, Creaky.
I think I've lent mine out. Hasn't come back.
That's all right, Nez. I think I've got my pajamas on the back.
There
for
you are. It's the pajamas from your TED Talk. Look at that.
There we go. So you can go and check out our website's just sugar.life. So it's like sugar with a J .life. You can go and check that out. But probably more importantly, you don't need to do any of that. If you watch my TED Talk, I'll give you a few simple ideas, but I think I've given everyone enough today that change starts with something small. Doesn't mean you need to go out and, do all these crazy things. Walking is the best thing. I always say this, just walk. If you're in a rut, go for a walk. But the biggest thing is the moment you take a device, headphones, anything like that, it defeats the purpose of it. You need that time to be by yourself, not being able to be contactable. It's very liberating. I know it's very hard to start, but it's something you need to do.
Yeah, I've started this scenario where I'm trying to walk twice a day. So I walk in the mornings with the dog, and then I walk at night by myself. Mate, I love that 6:30, 7 o'clock at night walk. I call it the dinner walk because I walk around my local neighborhood and I smell what everyone's having for dinner. And I'll tell you what, it's probably one of the greatest things about multiculturalism in this country is all the different smells around the neighborhood is just fascinating. But it's getting out there, it's being connected, it's letting the human senses express themselves for a bit rather than being locked into a device. I mean, I'm very device centric because I'm all about creating content, but it's got to be in a balance. It's got to be managed and looked after. So yeah, get out there, get moving. I've got a saying: you're never old until you stop walking, and so I'm trying to get that into my dad at the moment. Is you just keep walking, mate. Just keep going. Don't stop. I think that's important. But recently, before we got on here live, we were talking about the fact that you've been traveling overseas lately. You just got back from Singapore. You headlined a massive conference over there, so congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I did. Sorry, you go.
I was going to say, but you missed out on grand final day.
I did. Very shattered. Steel Sidebottom is my cousin, and I had very nice tickets. And this conference in Singapore was locked in. They locked me in 8 months ago, and when I locked it in, I was just very excited. I was main speaker at an international conference. There was people from 94 different big international schools all over, from Kazakhstan to India to China. They're all there. So it was a really big opportunity. It was amazing, but. I didn't realise Collingwood were going to make the grand final, and I didn't even get to watch. I haven't even watched it yet, Craig. I've watched the highlights because I was actually running a fun shop or workshop at the conference on the Saturday while that was on. So, the things you do for work, and hopefully Collingwood can make it again. And I get to go because I've never seen him win one. I was in Germany when the first one after the tied grand final of St Kilda, and I was at the one where Dom Sheed for West Coast kicked the goal to beat them by a few points, and obviously I was in Singapore for this one. So, mate, but very exciting. It was lovely to go to Singapore. I haven't been there for a while, and such a beautiful place. I've watched
him win one, unfortunately, as a Saints
supporter. I know you're a St Kilda. I didn't want to bring that up, mate, but long time ago now. Hopefully you're over it. Obviously not.
Well, I can tell you he played an absolute ripper on the weekend. It was
he did.
It was a cracking game, and he seriously. I mean, I think the egg needs a little bit of fake tan or something, but
the bunts.
He absolutely played a cracking game. Now you also spoke, and so you need to sit down and just lock yourself in your room and watch that from.
I know.
From Kiss onwards. It was a great day. And I don't know if you've seen the Kiss pre-game entertainment, but there is a lot of fun being had there outside the actual band, which I think tugged at the heartstrings of more people than actual Kiss fans seeing their heroes at the age of 80 rocking it out. Because they literally are in their 70s or their 80s, Kiss.
Amazing.
So I thought they did an amazing job. Like, still having fun, still doing the same gig, and loving it.
Yeah. Work's not work if you love what you're doing. That's essentially, that's why so many artists, particularly musicians, keep going till they're nearly drop dead because the purpose that gives them, love it.
Yeah, they love it. Now, you also spoke over in Saudi Arabia. Tell us, what was that like?
Yeah, I did. The royal family school of Saudi Arabia flew me over to speak to 130. They have 130 staff, and I didn't realize that a lot of international schools I work with have a really diverse range of students, whereas 99% of the students that go there were Saudis because most of them are from the royal family. So as I was talking, I was running a full-day fun shop to kick off the 130 people in the room. Quarter of the room didn't speak English, so they spoke Arabic. So as I'm talking, they got a translator going creaky. So you can imagine, as the day went on, more and more people went over to the translator because even though I'm speaking English, they didn't understand me anyway. So by the end, half the room had translators going, and it was such an experience. But what it made me realize was what I get people to do, like gradually, is so far out of the Saudis' comfort zone. Do you know what I mean? Like, women were only allowed to drive cars there 3 years ago. Like, half the room were fully covered up in burqas still. The other
Yeah.
half of the women weren't. It was a mix of male and female. But yeah, I was able to get them to do things that they've probably never done in their life because their culture doesn't allow it. So probably more than anything, it was a very challenging day just because I had to work so hard. But yeah, if I can go over to Saudi Arabia with 130 people in the room, quarter of the room don't speak English, and have a really profound impact. It was one of those moments where I just went on the plane that night home. I was very proud of myself because I went over there. I was very nervous because I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I got no idea.
Right.
So yeah, it was one of those moments where I sat back, and that was probably like we are talking about before. Believe in yourself. It was probably like, wow, I've sort of made it. If I can come over and do this here, I know it'll work anywhere.
Yeah, what an amazing experience. That'll be a story that you tell forever. And I must admit, I used to do keynotes in front of Vietnamese government officials that would come out as part of a program for RMIT. And I think exactly the same. Half the room would be English and would have some level of English, and the other half wouldn't. But by the time you and I wind up our performance, you need to be very good at English to follow it because it goes so fast, and you can just see the room moving. Exactly, you just see the room moving towards the interpreter, and then the interpreter also asking for breaks so that they can catch up with what they're saying. So there's definitely a skill in that. But as long as you can laugh about it and see the funny side of it, I think that's what is the greatest thing you bring to the world, mate. And that's why you're so successful at what you do, is because you make people smile and you make them realize that life's a lot more than just numbers and crunching the numbers and transactional experiences. You only get one shot at it that we know of. So make sure you enjoy the journey, I think, is what the biggest message I get from you. And I just love speaking to you every time. We don't do it enough, in my opinion, but you're too busy. So have fun. But yeah, it's always a pleasure to speak to you, mate. And I really appreciate your input today and the tips that you've given people. If you've got any final message that you want to send on to the good folk that will be watching Spring Into Action, I think it's episode 4. I think you've numbered episode 4 today. So
if you haven't already booked some sessions with Creaky, do it. The best in the business. That's how I will sign out. But no, thank you, mate. I do appreciate it. I always love connecting. And I think the biggest thing that reflecting on our chat today is you never know who you'll meet when you allow it to occur. Be curious, not judgmental, and allow connections to take place. And that's why we're doing what we're doing here, mate. So thanks for the opportunity.
No worries. Thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, Dale Sidebottom, the funnest guy on the planet, no doubt about it. Officially, professionally, the fun guy. Dale Sidebottom, thank you so much for joining us on Spring Into Action, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks, Craigie.
Peace.